Talk about it with Franjez. Today's special guest grew up in Hastings on Hudson, moved to Los Angeles, California in the 90s to work in film and TV. Worked on hundreds of TV shows, movies, commercials, and music videos. Currently working at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles, plus many other things we're going to get into. Please welcome today's guest, Wes Oakley.
Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming this far away.
Yeah,
I can't wait to get into this whole story.
Yeah, I was here to visit some family, but my grandmother, whose birthday is today, September 30th.
Happy birthday, Grandma.
She passed away during the pandemic. She would have been 106 today.
Woo.
She made it to 100. She had
God
a very
bless.
amazing past. Her father owned a speakeasy on Nepperhan and Lake, and it was called the Big Egg, and it was named after this egg, this glacial erratic rock that was about 4 feet wide and 3.5 feet tall. It weighed over 1,000 pounds. It was found up the street while someone was looking for Civil War, Revolutionary War artifacts. They thought there was gold buried up there. That was the rumor. Soldiers would bury their gold when they were afraid of being caught, because if they were caught by the enemy, they would take all their money. So they would bury their money somewhere on a tree or somewhere where they could recognize the spot and come back for it later. And there are as many reports and stories of people finding these things. And there was a rumor running crazy that there was some up by the quarry in Yonkers right there.
I see.
And this guy, Corbelis, was up there looking for it and found this rock. And somehow, we don't know how, they moved it down there. And this is 1860s.
1860.
In the 1860s. Wow. So they moved it down in front of his father's tavern. And
where was it exactly before that?
It was in this quarry just down the street on Nepperhan.
Okay. All right.
And they moved it there, and it became a celebrity of Yonkers. And eventually everyone referred to as the tavern as the Big Egg.
Makes sense.
And it stayed there all the way up until the there was a councilman, an alderman, Corbelis, who used the egg and its popularity for his campaign, and even used it in his buttons.
Wow. And
claimed that it had magical powers and that it would get bigger as he spoke at City Hall. And he did a lot of good things for the city too. He got fresh water to people, created the sewer system.
All right.
Started, street projects, like all sorts of things he did for the city. He was a founding father of Yonkers to make it a city.
Nice.
So he and his family had it all the way up into World War I, and the sons eventually, everybody kept passing away, and they had it, and it was sold to what would become my great grandfather, Thomas Kiernan.
Is it the egg or the property with the egg?
All of the above.
Wow.
He got the tavern. He worked for Corbelis for a time, and then bought it from him. And Thomas turns out to be a very interesting character because he ends up being involved with a bad crowd in Dutch Schultz, the notorious mobster. Arnold Rothstein, the man that threw the World Series. His best friend was Crazy Legs Diamond, who would run so fast that they couldn't shoot him. And then when he was shot like, I think 16 times or something, and never died.
Wow.
He just kept getting shot, he would run away and get shot and never die. You know, like they finally caught up to him upstate in, I think it was Albany, where he was shot and killed in a hotel room with his wife. But that was great, Legs Diamond. And my grandmother was born in the Big Egg, the tavern.
Get out of here.
Yes.
Physically born in there.
Born there.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was born there on September 30th, 1919. And she lived there. Her sister, unfortunately, passed away in the flu pandemic of that year. In the early 20s.
So it was commercial and residential, this property.
Yeah, they lived above it. Then there was the tavern, and they ran the tavern as a, just as a tavern.
Yeah.
It was just, for a while, it was just a normal tavern. But then Prohibition hits. And that's where all the shady characters come in. There was, like I said, Dutch Schultz kind of ran things. And there was, they turned the front of the store into a candy store and an ice cream shop.
That was the cover up?
That was the front. You went in, you got in through a secret door, and you were in the tavern.
Nice.
And Thomas ran it with his wife, Nora, and my grandmother, who was 9 years old.
Wow.
Making bathtub gin, helping clean things up. She ran, mostly the mom and her ran the candy store, but they were also there. And there were other people that were working there as well.
When did you learn all this?
So when I was a teenager, my grandmother ironically had a liquor store in Hastings, and she never got out of the booze business, right? And I would help her out, and she would just throw out these names like, oh, yeah, my dad, worked with Dutch Schultz, or Crazy Legs Diamond was his best friend. She'd just throw these things out there. And one day I was watching TV really late at night, and there was an episode of this TV show called The Untouchables with Robert Stack before the movie.
Yeah.
And there was this episode that took place in the Hudson Valley. Normally that show was Chicago, but this time it was in the Hudson Valley. And they're talking about Dutch Schultz, and they're talking about Legs Diamond. And
so as a kid, you knew these names, but you didn't know what they did.
I didn't know. I mean, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And she just casually mentioned them, not what they really did.
Yeah.
And like the next time I saw her, I was like, Graham, I saw this show, and it talked about Legs Diamond and Dutch Schultz and Rothstein and Mad Dog Cole and like all these people, and I told her what the episode was about, and she's like, oh no, that didn't happen that way. It's kind of based on something that really happened, but here's the real story. And I was like, what? And she really started to open up to me about these stories. And then I went to my dad and I said, did you know this? And he's like, well, she would mention these people, but we never really thought anything about it. And I was like, and he didn't believe me. He was like, no. She mentioned these people, but no. And then I was like, no. And then when I got them together, and my uncle said the same thing. Oh, she's full of crap. She's just telling you stories. And I got them all together, and their jaws dropped. They were like, what?
So tell me one of the stories that she told you, something good.
Her dad. So her life was very strange. Okay. And, like the TV show, The Munsters, or The Addams Family, how if it was a rainy day, they thought it was a great day. That Marilyn Munster was the ugly one when she was beautiful.
Yeah.
Her life was sort of like that. You would say, like, she didn't realize what they were doing was kind of wrong. She just thought it was normal.
When you grow up around it, it's normal.
Right. So she's 9 years old. She's working in this speakeasy. She's associating with these mobsters who she doesn't really understand what they do. And one story is that her dad said, "Would you come with me to Rockaway Beach? I have some things to take care of, and we'll go on the boardwalk after I do what I have to do." And she's like, "Yeah." So,
yeah, absolutely.
and getting even today to Rockaway from here is not quick.
Absolutely.
And they had an REO. They called it a Rio. People today call it REO, as in the Speedwagon, the band. It was called a Rio Speedwagon. And it had their name printed backwards on it. It said Nanakin Nurseries. It was to haul booze and to throw the feds off that it was booze. It looked like a flower truck. It had flowers inside of it. So they drove this truck over to Rockaway
with young grandma.
Yep. And they get to Rockaway, and her dad brings in booze with him, and they go into one of the bungalows, and there's a guy laying on this lady's kitchen table with a belly wound. And her dad sticks a bottle in his mouth, loads him up with booze, and takes the bullet out of this guy's stomach.
Wow.
Right in front of my grandmother. And she thought nothing of it. She saw the blood. She was like, "Yeah, I saw the blood. Yeah, he was the best."
Daddy's a doctor.
They called him Doc Kiernan, but he wasn't a doctor. But
he was a street doctor.
Yeah. He had an athletic club, and he taught boxing.
Nice.
And anybody he taught boxing who was really became one of the goons.
Okay.
Kind of thing. He would teach them how to fight.
They know how to fight.
And they would end up working for them. So anyway, he takes the bullet out of the guy and patches him up, and the woman's freaking out because her dining room, her living room table is the kitchen table is now full of blood and everything like that. And the two of them just leave and go on the boardwalk and get ice cream and have a good time. And she says, "We never talked about it, and it was like nothing ever happened."
Wow.
So things like that.
And you were born in Hastings on Hudson?
I was born in Yonkers at St.
Nice.
John's.
Nice, me too.
Yep.
It's a good hospital. I like it.
Yeah. Yep.
So, born in Yonkers, but you were living in Hastings at the time.
Grew up in Hastings.
Okay. Yeah. And then what age did you leave?
I was like 22. Maybe,
oh, okay.
23.
So your formative years were here.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
So what was your childhood like here in Hastings?
Oh, it was good and bad. It was a small town. Everybody knew what time you flushed your toilet.
I never heard that one.
It was stuff like that. You did something wrong and your dad heard about it,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like one time I tried to buy beer in the A&P and the manager, he knew my dad, he knew his brother, he knew everything, and he walked past me as I was with the cart of beer, and he was just like, "Hello," and I said, "Hey." And I was only like 16, 17 at the time. And then he stopped and turned around and he said, "Hey, Oakley, put that back." And then, of course, my dad, 2 days later was like, "Wally told me you were trying to buy beer in the AP. What, are you stupid? Don't you know we know everybody here?"
Yeah.
And we did. Like, the Oakleys went back. They were there. I don't know, two generations before me, and there was the Cushamanos, which came to America to New Orleans in 1890s. So they were here. They were in Dobbs Ferry, Irvington, Hastings, all over the place. I have 4 descendants that go back to the Mayflower,
Really?
So like we're real American, My mother's side as well. Her father built the Uniontown firehouse in Hastings.
Yeah, real American.
Yeah,
I like that. A lot of history.
Yeah.
So what were you into as a kid? Besides trying to drink at 17.
Well, I played football in Hastings and grew up there. Played, just had a lot of fun playing in the woods there, Sugar Pond, skating, ice skating, hockey, skateboarding, riding bikes, all that stuff. It was a lot of, we were all over the place.
Nice.
There was lots of hidey holes and places to go, creeks to play around in.
Yeah.
And they used to, I don't know if they still do, but because it was a factory town, they had the 4:30 whistle. And when, that was more for the wives of the people working in the factory to get dinner ready or whatever. And the shift was coming home soon.
I see.
But for us as kids, it was like that 4:30 whistle went off. You knew you better get home.
Yeah, it's dinner time. Yeah,
because you didn't have a watch.
Home. Yeah.
And, we would be playing in the snow somewhere, getting all messed up.
Yeah.
And just head home,
Nice.
That whistle would come.
So what was the house like? What was the food cooked in the house, and what was the music played in the house?
We had a mix. There was Italian and Irish food, and my neighbors were Sicilian, and I would help in the deli.
Nice.
I was washing his cars all the time. I had Italian aunts and stuff, and they would cook things. And my other grandfather, his second wife, was brought over from Ireland, so she cooked really bizarre stuff. She was a poor kid. Her father was a farmer, and they would eat what was left over. So she would, if she made a fish for what is it? For Easter Friday, what is it? Good Friday.
Yeah.
Good Friday. She would serve the fish and everyone would eat the fish, but she'd be in the kitchen sucking on the fish head and sucking the eyeball out. And she thought that was the best part of the fish. Or the pig's knuckles. She would eat the pig's knuckles.
Yeah, those type of people.
She left nothing. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
What about religion? Any religion when
They
you were a
were
kid?
Catholic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And what else were you into? High school, junior
fireworks.
High? Fireworks. Okay.
Blowing things up.
Well,
yeah.
What about TV? Any TV yet?
Well, TV, yes. I mean, I was a child of television.
Okay.
I used to, and radio, I would hook up. We lived right on the Hudson River.
Nice.
And we had an aerial on the roof, and we would pick up stations sometimes from Philadelphia.
Wow.
We'd pick up this Channel 3 out of Philadelphia, and stations out of southern New Jersey and stuff like that. And that's where they would show other shows than like PIX would and Channel 5. And they would show like Green Acres and like but the show that like captured my imagination was this one called Uncle Floyd. He was this guy doing this crazy show out of New Jersey. It was like a kid show.
Okay.
And he'd wear these kooky hats and dress jackets, and he would play piano, and he would show like, pictures that the kids would send him and everything. And they had these goofy, terrible jokes, but it was funny. But then all of a sudden, the guest on the show is Cyndi Lauper.
Oh, okay.
Or the Ramones.
Interesting.
And you'd be like, why are these amazing music acts on this weird show that's sort of for kids, but it feels like it's not for kids, but it is? And I would say that show like probably formed some of my humor and musical tastes as well. Yeah, it was an interesting thing. But so I loved old television. I used to take them apart in my father's basement and get zapped or blow the power out of the house and stuff like that. Yeah. So film and TV and when cable came, it was like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would watch movies like all the time.
Oh yeah, all day now. You graduated high school?
Yep.
You went to college?
A little bit here and there.
What were you going for when you did go?
I was going for art and animation. I originally went out to LA to work in animation, and I was
Nice.
doing a cartoonist union program out there.
So the school was here?
I did go to school here. I went to Westchester and Mercy, and then went out there to try to I got in their program. It was a union apprentice program, not apprentice program, but it would teach you animation and help you get work.
Nice. So how was that? How was that move over there? You went alone?
I went alone.
Nice.
I knew nobody. I had a couple of contacts.
What was that transition like?
LA was weird. LA.
What year is this?
This is 1993. It was July of 93. And it was hot that July. I lived in a little one, but it wasn't even, they called it a 1+1. And in Glendale, California, which is right next to Burbank. Glendale, Burbank, and Studio City are sort of the valley area. Tons of film and TV production go on there.
Yeah.
ABC's headquarters is in Glendale.
Okay.
There were Disney's Imagineering unit and animation unit was at the time in Glendale. And it was sort of the place to be, where there were lots of people in the business there.
Yeah. And
I went there not knowing, really, I didn't know anyone. I had one or two contacts. I just started, pounding on doors and sending out resumes, and I picked up work here and there, and you just did anything you could to keep going. I worked as, a production assistant. I worked behind the camera. I worked carrying cables. I worked setting up lights. I would do whatever I could. And you'd meet people along the way. And then I worked on some animated stuff. And I did pencil test camera work, where I was the guy filming the pencil tests as I was going to school, training.
What's a pencil test?
So when they're first drawing the characters, each frame is a drawing.
Yeah.
And before they would color it and ink it, they do it in pencil. And then they film them all in pencil to see how it, all the papers, to see
if it flows,
see if it works. Because once you inked it and painted it back then, it was a lot of money to go through that process. So they would do the pencil test, and you actually see the whole movie in a pencil test form, or scenes. They would show you scenes. So that was one of the jobs I did, was I would film, put the thing down, put it in the thing, lock it down, take a picture, and it's one frame of video. And then so and I worked as an in-betweener, which draws the drawing in between the two other drawings, right? So the lead artist draws this beautiful drawing in two positions, and you draw the one in between to make it, and you have to make it match and figure out the.
So you finished that school program, whatever that was?
Yeah, well, I was doing that and trying to work at the same time, and then I ended up finding I got more work in post-production. And started doing that, and I ended up doing, you worked in a film vault. You would drive things to people's homes or other studios. You did a lot of all sorts of things when you first started. And I worked, learning how to do quality control work, where you sit there and you watch the movie and you listen for and look for mistakes, and you log them, and they go back and they get fixed and things like that. And I had some aptitude for computers, so I worked with some people. I worked in early DVD development. They didn't know what they were doing, really.
Of course,
it was a process where they really didn't know how to do anything, and they had to have these huge machines that were the size of washer machines, 4 or 5 of them, churning out and trying to render video that you can now do on a $200 laptop. Right. But it was all that hard work that went into figuring out how to do it that makes it possible to do it on a $200
absolutely.
laptop. And I worked in some experimental streaming services before there was such a thing. Like people were
Really?
still using dial-up,
Yeah.
and we were trying to figure out ways of making these films be transmitted over
Wow.
the internet or a video on demand type
Yeah.
system. And that was like 98. I was
Wow.
doing that. So it was like
Yeah.
long before anybody,
Yeah, absolutely.
knew what a stream was. We were working on that kind of stuff.
Nice, nice. So what's going on around this time? You're getting better jobs, and are you looking for a specific type of job, or you just going
No,
with the
I just
flow?
kept going, and I worked on I worked for companies that were doing like Frasier and Seinfeld and just kept rolling from company to company. And there was a lot of consolidation in post-production where these bigger companies would buy the smaller place, and you just kept chasing the next place.
Yeah.
And then I ended up at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County, and did various positions there, and then ended up in marketing.
Nice.
And communications, and make videos I make content for them, as well as the La Brea Tar Pits.
Yeah, I want to ask, what is that?
The La Brea Tar Pits is the only fossil tar seep it's the largest one in a metropolitan area.
What is that?
So it's an oil field, and there were animals that died in the oil and sediment and then become fossilized. They actually don't become fossilized like a dinosaur bone gets fossilized. The oil actually preserves the bone. So there's actually still DNA left in the fossil where a dinosaur bone that you would pull out of like Utah or something like that doesn't have any DNA. It's actually the minerals have taken over and changed taken the shape of the bone.
Yeah.
So it's a world famous institution.
So it's a place in La Brea.
It's in Los Angeles. It's in the middle of Los Angeles. It's 3 miles south of Hollywood. It's a fascinating place. The tar seeps up from the ground and through fissures in the ground. And pressure, the oil comes up, and it's asphalt. And the scientists will probably kick my butt on this because asphalt, tar, whatever, petroleum, whatever, there's man-made version, they take this, it's the crudest form of it. So they take it and they make other things from it.
I see. So what do you do there?
What do? I make films about what they do.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I videotape them, I interview them, I direct and cut videos. I make the commercials for the website or YouTube or promoting our things, our exhibits, or sometimes they're of scientific nature. Mostly, almost all the videos are of scientific nature,
Nice.
or history.
Do you edit also?
Yeah.
Nice. What do you edit on?
We use Adobe Premiere.
Nice, me too.
Yeah.
With Adobe Premiere, they have the AI function to edit podcasts now, which this is the main reason I use it.
Yeah.
It's sped up my podcast editing so much.
Yeah.
It's a great program.
I use some of the AI functions. They're getting better and better.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They are. They're not there yet.
Yeah.
But they're definitely getting better and better.
The editing by text for videos
Yeah.
is really pretty good.
Yeah, it's getting scary now.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, yeah, it still gets the names wrong, but
with text it's horrible.
But
with the visuals, it's getting a lot better. I used to do like 6 fingers and stuff. Now it's getting pretty good with the 5 fingers and stuff like that. Yeah, it's getting good. Very good.
Yeah.
How about what camera you use?
Well, we have the newest one we have is one of those Osmo Pocket 3s.
That's what I use.
Yeah, we have one of those. We have a couple of those, and
it's a great camera.
Yeah, but we have I think a GH6 or 4, and we have a couple of Canon 300s and 100s, and
nice.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of gear we have. And we outsource some of our filming as well. So
Okay.
we'll have crews with,
Mhm.
lighting people. When it's big
Yeah.
enough, we'll bring in
Absolutely.
sound and lighting people. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So the egg, where is the egg now?
So the egg was there as she grew up, and she, in the 30s, Prohibition was over, and Thomas tried to go straight as everybody did. Dutch Schultz was killed by the Italian mafia because he was going against their wishes. If you go back just a little bit, I'll get to where the egg is.
All
But
right.
it was a very interesting time because it was like the Irish mob and the Jewish mob really ran things. The Italian mob was there too, no doubt, right? But they weren't in control like you think of today. That really didn't come about until sort of the end of Prohibition, as the Italian mob took more control and then created a group that kind of oversaw all the other mobs.
Mm.
It didn't matter if you were Italian or Jewish or whatever, or Irish, you had to answer to them. They told you what you could and couldn't do.
Wow.
And Dutch Schultz was being prosecuted by Thomas Dewey, who tried to run for president, and he was the Attorney General of New York State, and he went after Dutch, and Dutch wanted to kill him. And he went to the Italian bosses and said, I want to kill him. And they said, no. And he went ahead and started a plot to try and kill Dewey. When they heard this, they got upset. So they killed Dutch.
Sounds like a movie.
Yeah. And they have used some of it for like Boardwalk Empire and stuff like that. So Thomas doesn't have Dutch anymore. There's no Prohibition. He actually gets ill. He passes away. Mary's, my grandmother, is left with his black book. Can't do anything, collect the money that people owe him. She can't run the tavern. She's only like 19 years, 18 years old. Her mother's an alcoholic and ill. They sell the tavern in somewhere around 38, somewhere around there. And with the tavern went the Big Egg. The Corbelis has come back at that point and claim the egg as theirs because they found it. They're we're talking 80 years prior to that, almost, found the egg. They say it's theirs. They move it in Yonkers to a house in their backyard in Yonkers. And it stays there until 1963 when they moved to Connecticut. And they took it with them to Connecticut. So it's bounced around Connecticut, and it's still in Connecticut today, and it's taken care of by the heirs of the original, the original founders of the egg. And I saw it today.
No way, today.
Yeah. Yep, I went there
That's
today
amazing.
and saw it.
You have a picture?
Yeah, we have pictures. I can send you a picture.
Absolutely. I would love to see a picture.
Yeah, it's big.
It sounds huge.
It's impressive. It's well, as my grandmother would say, some egg.
Wow.
It's some egg.
That's amazing. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, I wanted to be like a professional wrestler.
That's what I wanted to be too.
Yeah. I wanted to be or a rock star or a football player. It was like all of those things. As I got a little older, it was always film, TV. Even when I was a little kid, when there was a play, if I could get involved, I was always doing the lights.
Yeah.
It was like in communication class in high school, I dug in and wanted to edit video, even if it was VHS tape to VHS tape. You know, I got jobs that were always film adjacent, you know, as a teenager, you know, like filming somebody's wedding and stuff like that. I did a lot of those things. So yeah, it was as a kid, I was like 15 years old and I would buy Daily Variety. It would come out in New York as a weekly edition and I would buy it and read it. And I was fascinated by the film business even as a kid.
That's nice. If you could have any question answered, what would you ask?
Any question answered? Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
I like that. What's the most exciting thing you ever did?
Actually, I did some professional wrestling, and that was one of the most exciting things I did. Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Where and when, and how'd that go?
It was in Los Angeles. It was at a couple times in Los Angeles we did it. There was at the Hollywood Athletic Club and the El Rey Theater, and like we did some crazy stuff.
What was your wrestling name?
I was Stosh Stevens, the Polish Wonder. I was a bodyguard for this guy. You have to understand, it was a crazy league. It was called Incredibly Strange Wrestling, and they did bizarre things. They had a quadriplegic wrestle somebody, and he was undefeated. The quadriplegic.
Come on.
Yeah, it was bizarre. It was
very bizarre.
It was crazy stuff. But yeah, I threw a few people around, and it was a lot. It was one of the most exciting things I ever.
That sounds exciting. Did you have a finisher?
No, because I was sort of a bodyguard guy. I didn't have like official matches.
You didn't find yourself.
Yeah. But yeah, that was one of the greatest things. You're in the ring. You're supposed to be a bad guy, and people are cheering for you. And it was just like, what? You know? Yeah,
people like the bad guy. People always root for the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about now? Any goals or anything? You have anything coming up that's exciting?
Well, the museum, we're making lots of videos. You know, that's always fun. I'm working on this project with the Big Egg, and
tell us about the project.
I'm trying to figure out how to make it into a film or a book or a television series. I think it would be incredible for Yonkers because it's all these stories my grandmother would tell me. And she would give names of people and things that happen. And then you're able now through the internet, and my wife helps me with this. We research and find these people, and we find these stories that she would tell us. And we find out that they were worse than the story she told me.
Because grandma's not going to tell, the grandchildren the horror
She saw
stories,
these things as through the eyes of a 9-year-old. And she would say, oh, and like her father's, like I said, the weird family growing up, their Sunday outings was going to prisons to visit inmates.
Inmates they knew?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And probably pass information.
Absolutely. Smuggling stuff. Yeah.
Oh, certainly. And this one guy in particular, she said that she gave his name and she gave the father's name, and she said he got caught hunting and he took the rap for his dad so the dad wouldn't go to jail. Well, we're like, oh, that's nice, okay. Well, when we look up the guy's name and the father's name, they were running $100,000 fur ring in 1929.
Wow.
In the middle of the Depression, $100,000 fur ring.
Wow.
And there's this report that calls it I think it was the county prosecutor of Westchester County busted the ring and called it the worst pit. What was it? I'm sorry. Pest hole. It was the worst pest hole in Westchester County.
Wow.
It was probably disgusting because they were killing animals.
Oh, yeah.
And just throwing them away and taking their furs.
Yeah.
And so she knew the people, kind of knew the story, but when you research the story, it gets worse. You know, and that happens with almost every single person she talks about.
Wow.
Mad Dog Cole, she would talk about him and she'd say he was a thief, he was a crook. But then when you look him up, you find out that he was a baby killer, that he kidnapped other mobsters' children and held them for ransom.
Wow.
That he shot a kid on the street, that he started fighting with one gang and then would fight with the gang that he once belonged to, and he would steal from this guy and do this, and he hung some guy up. His signature move was to hang them up with meat hooks by their palms, the meat in their thumbs, and hang them up like that, and then torture them and beat them to death. He was a sick man, but she would just tell you, oh yeah, my father didn't like him. He was a thief.
I see why she didn't tell you all the details.
No. And well, yeah. So anyway, getting back to where the egg is, or I think, did we go to that?
Yeah, it's in Connecticut.
Yeah, it's in Connecticut. So when they lost control of the tavern, it ended up there, right? And I don't know. I kind of got lost.
Well, with the project, yeah, I think you should just document as much as you can.
Yeah.
Put it all in chronological order,
Yeah.
and then see what you could do with it.
Yeah, and I think like a company, like Lionsgate that makes films, they're right here. Like this is a project that's, would be perfect for them because it's a Yonkers company.
Yeah. You have everything. Do you think you're the person that has the most documented?
Oh,
about the
of
egg?
course.
Oh, so then you're the guy.
It's not just the egg; it's just the whole area.
Yeah.
We know where a lot of the taverns were. We know the stories that she would tell, and then we were able to find like documentation to back it up. So this is an incredibly true story. It's like Boardwalk Empire. It's like The Sopranos. It's probably more violent than them in some ways because like Dutch Schultz was his signature move was to curb somebody. He would put their face on the curb and stomp their head and break their jaw. So that was the kind of people you were dealing with that she grew up with. She called him Uncle Dutch. She would tell you that he was a really nice man. She would go to his house. His house is over here. It looks out on the Palisades.
Nice.
She went to parties there. She would sit on his lap. He asked her once what she wanted for her birthday, and she said a Tommy gun. And and she's 9 years old. And this is what's bizarre about the whole thing. He doesn't say, no, you're 9 years old. He says, no, you're too small.
You can't handle that.
And he got her a handgun instead that she slept under under her pillow. They all did. Her mom slept with it.
Crazy times.
Under her pillow. Her dad did. If the shades were drawn a certain way on her house, that meant the revenue men were in the neighborhood and not to go near the house. And she knew there was a safe house for her to go to. She would walk to school with a bodyguard in case somebody tried to snatch her.
Horrible times.
And I don't know if you know about Albert Fish. Do you know about Albert Fish? Albert Fish is the originator of I've Lost My Puppy. Can you help me find it? Or I have some candy. Would you like some? And he is sort of the basis of Hannibal Lecter. And he lived in Irvington.
Wow. And
he would place ads in the newspaper looking for helpers to work on his farm. And he was like looking for young, strong men to work on my farm. And he would show up to somebody's house as this proper gentleman. And he would scope them out for like their children and somehow weasel his way to get them to come with him to his birthday party for his niece or something like that, because he seemed very wealthy. And he would abduct the child or take them off the street with candy, and he would eat them. and send pieces of their body back to the parent with these terrible letters talking about how good they tasted and how long it took them to eat them.
Wow.
So he was around the area, and so she was very terrified of that growing up. Even when I was a kid, she would always be like, don't take candy from strangers. Don't do this. Don't do that. So it was very ingrained with her. And it was, she just had a really like horrifying kind of childhood. And even later, she ended up working for the military during World War II, cutting opium. And she'd get high all day on opium.
Wow.
Like this woman had an incredibly crazy life.
She has some stories. She needed a podcast.
She probably would have filled the podcast up for a couple of thousand episodes. And that's why I think this does make like for a show of some sort.
Absolutely.
You know?
You're the guy, man. You got all the information.
And it all came from sitting there being willing to listen to this woman, you know, stories. And when I was a kid, she was probably in her 60s, maybe. Yeah, she was like in her late 60s, I think, at that time.
Wow.
And nobody really believed her. And I asked her once, like, why didn't you tell my father this or his brother or anybody?
Because put yourself in their position. A parent, a grandparent doesn't want to tell the kids all the horror stories, you know?
Yeah, but she said no one ever asked.
That was the reason.
No one really cared. You know, you came along and you were watching these things and you were watching these shows and you asked me questions about it and I just told you because no one ever really asked. And that's what she told my dad. She's like, why didn't you tell us? She said, you never asked. I would say these people's names, but you guys just didn't, you know, follow it up with anything. And I just said, oh, okay. And she was very protective too. We actually did videotape her in the 1990s.
Nice.
Telling these stories.
Oh, great.
And so we have her actual words.
Amazing.
And she was very protective. Some of the stories that she told me in the 1980s were pretty consistent in the 90s, but she was more guarded on videotape. She wouldn't say the names of the people. Or in the 80s too, she'd say, oh, I can't tell you his name because he's still alive.
She's no rat.
Yeah, she's no rat. Oh, no. She lived by that code. I mean, yeah, she, like I said, she was a mobster. You know, she was a 9-year-old mobster.
Wow.
Broke her neck getting chased by the cops. By the feds in it was Tommy St. John's farm. It was up near Brewster area, Armonk area up there.
Wow.
Yeah. Broke her neck. And we can find Tommy St. John's on the map. And we can find records and stories in the local newspapers about it being a speakeasy. And
Grandma sounds amazing.
Yeah.
We could go on for hours. You have so many great stories.
You know, they turned the Yonkers brewery, you know, was supposed to be, it was a brewery. It shut down for Prohibition. Dutch Schultz bought it. It made soda and ice cream, but they were still making beer and they would pump it down through the ground and out to a secret location.
Nice.
And bottle it and sell it.
That's amazing. I look forward to, I really hope this project becomes something, a book, a film, a show, anything. I would love to read or watch or hear about it. That'd be incredible. I hope something comes of it.
Thanks.
Keep us posted. Is there any other last words you want to leave the people with?
No, I can't think of anything.
All right. Well,
don't take candy from strangers.
100%. At least we're in safer times.
And don't help anybody with their puppy.
I like that. You heard it here first. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Peace and love.
All right.